teachings in theater at UIC in 1992 on a full scholarship as a university president's scholar. That's all coming from Sister Claire Muhammad's school. So some kind of way I was found. That's all I can say is thank you. Yeah. A year later, after graduating from my and getting my bachelor's, I began graduate studies as a graduate student assistantship recipient in the radio, TV, film studies at Northwestern University. And I earned my master's degree in 1994. Then 10 years later, it took a while, I became Dr. Hip Hop by earning a PhD with a dissertation entitled, thank you. Yeah, it felt like 10 years for real. The title of my dissertation was Hip Hop Culture and Media's Impact on Young Black Women's Identity Formation. I have, right now, 11 years now, I have been through some of every kind of job situation. I have a multifaceted background with 2 decades of professional work experiences, including working as a master broadcasting operator at WCIU TV, Channel 26 here in Chicago, producing, directing, writing, editing, while working with the Mohammed Group and many community members on the evolution of a community, Muslim African Americans, 1975 to 1995. Yes, I was so, all throughout that process, I learned to love what I grew up with even more. And I've spent 10 years as a full-time college professor. I taught at Indiana University in Kokomo, Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, and most recently at Chicago State University. So that's been a whole lot of ups and downs. And that's what hip hop, the theme of hip hop is trying to maintain a flow, even though your foundation is kind of shaky sometimes, and your expectations aren't met, and you're disappointed. All of that happens, but you have to keep looking forward. And so that's what I've been able to prayerfully accomplish and continue to accomplish. And so the main thing I want to think about for the first question is life stages as temporary and or accidental Muslim. That's been my question for the last, 44 years. I'm telling on it. I claim it.
It's all right.
And currently, I'm working as a day-to-day substitute teacher in the Chicago public school system. Since I've had about 7 different kinds of work experiences over these last 20 years, I consider myself a versatile communications consultant, able to proficiently apply TV studio production, radio broadcasting production, digital media, and written communication skills to successfully accomplish varied tasks. And Brother Abdul Rashid Akbar is going to help me some more. Learning about the digital social media, because my daughter kind of jokes about me. I'm kind of low tech when it comes to social media. But at the same time, I know that to whom much is given, much is required. So my overall approach to any and all endeavors in which I'm involved is to offer accurate, reliable, excellent services. So last year, the Broadcasting Educators Association, BEA, Multicultural Studies Division awarded me a second place competitive paper of 2014. So today, I'll present a remix of that BEA award-winning paper, which I've renamed The Always Acting Young Generation Xers Turned 50. Now what? So that has been the question. So think about it. The Generation X is that demographic that was born from between 1965 to about 1980. Those 15 or so years. That's one group that's up until this point, still hasn't really claimed anything except hip hop. Sorta, on the side.
That's the irony.
Yeah, that's the irony.
It's a lot.
It's a whole lot. And so the Generation X includes some of everything. We're not the baby boomers. We're not part of the great generation. We're not the new millennials. So we are just in that awkward position, trying to figure things out. And a lot of times, that trying to figure things out includes all kinds of mistakes and all kinds of hard lessons. So one thing I wanted to include in this presentation is something I read when I was substitute teaching, yes, maybe 2 weeks ago, I had my 8th graders read this article from True Star magazine. The title of the article is, "Are We Losing Our Minds to Media?" And so the subtitle includes, "Social media strips teens of real life experiences because their minds are already made up based off of other people's opinions." And so this whole process of being super connected to any and everything all the time, you still have to decide and choose where you're going to be and who you're going to be thinking about and what you're going to be thinking about. And so that was part of the question that I posed to the class. They listened, and some of them, I would say half of them, responded to the 4 questions I came up with for them. But this article was written by a junior at Thornton Fractional North High School. So it's not from anybody talking about somebody older than them. It was from a teenager's point of view. And a couple of the quotes from here that I thought were interesting was this idea that social media is stripping teens of real life experiences. And sometimes they don't believe what their parents or their community really knows, because they know better, because all over Facebook or all over YouTube, look at this video, and so they believe they have evidence, but it really doesn't help them feel better about themselves. And so some of the main points I had them discuss in this in class was the point that was brought up in this article is media, internet included, shows a lot of things on how we are supposed to look and things that we are supposed to do. Now, for young women, the media makes us think we have to be a certain size to be considered beautiful. How much we are influenced by these things we were born with, just to be accepted. And then, as explained by the creator of a film series called Killing Us Softly, remember this, that the advertising is a $250 billion a year industry in the United States. That's a $250 million? No, $250 billion spent on trying to get in your head, in my head, and tell me what to think about. And so when I read this, I went way back to some of the first things that I remember reading and my mother tell me about and my father tell me about. Is they were repeating the main points that were brought up by Imam Deen Mohammed. Select the things that go into your mind. And I know my mother would say that and my father would say that every time they would tell me to turn off that radio while you're doing your homework. Turn off that radio while you're doing your homework. You feel this? Because that was the experience. That was the experience and that was the truth. And I was like, no, they don't know. I can multitask. The word then wasn't multitask. It was, I can pay attention. I'm just going to sing along. It helps me. But all of this back and forth, I often had late homework assignments or, I didn't spell that right. And, all kinds of other things. But going on, even after I moved out of my parents' house, there was some more bumps and bruises that I had to earn my lessons through some pain and suffering that was self-inflicted because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And bringing this up, I also have to remember I just want to acknowledge that on this day, 15 years ago, was when my mommy's teacher, June, was born into eternity. June 7th, 2000. So, I mean, I think about her often, and her memory is still very much alive. And that's the good thing. That's helped me. And so that's kind of, I feel it. So that's been a part of my response to, okay, when I turn 50, then what? Because I know my mother used to say, when I was like, he's already 50? She's like, keep living. It's going to happen. So even though I want to claim that I'm not 50 years old yet, I am looking forward to it. And all I have to do is keep living and stay focused. And I believe that between, I don't know how many of us Generation Xers they are quantitatively, but between the baby boomers and the millennials, there we are. We're not as large demographically as either of those generations, but we have made a big impact already.
I heard you mention, who were the parents of the Generation X? You mentioned
the baby boomers.
The baby boomers. They also call them the me generation.
That's where we learned some of that, didn't we?
Yeah, so that's how if you want a child that's an X, you focus on yourself and not the child.
And that's kind of what happened. And then that's kind of what happened because even I'm not necessarily going to frame any generation negatively. It's just certain kinds of thoughts and experiences shaped who they became and their temporary life stages. Because baby boomers are learning now, I'm not going to always be extra young and able to do these 3-day, 3-week concerts. So the baby boomers are learning. Now, at the same time, they're still overall, when I say they, I'm not naming anybody in particular. I'm just meaning that the general outcomes of some of the expressions and examples and activities have been about, okay, well, we're going to make the 50 is the new 25. Or I saw something on a catalog that's sent to my sister's house. She gets a lot of catalogs. She's part of the baby booming generation a little bit. She's at the end of it. It said something about how 80 is the new 50. I just had So it's expected, we expect to always feel young in our head, wake up in our right mind, and with our ability to move around at will.
One in 4 people live to be 100 now.
See, I know we know. And that's good news, right?
Yeah.
There's something to look forward to. I'm not necessarily counting down, I'm counting up and forward. So I'm sure there are other ways to look at this process of getting older. Aging, getting better. What are some other phrases that you have heard of?
Seasoned.
Becoming seasoned, healthier, smarter, wiser. Okay, older and wiser, smarter, seasoned.
First thing came to my mind was over the hill.
That was.
So I need y'all's positive. I'm gonna take note.
Yeah, it's a way to think about
I'm on my
it.
way down.
Yeah, because I struggled. I remember very personally struggling with the idea that I'm 29. I'm gonna be 30. Oh my